Ladies and gentlemen, somebody sent me some nonsense and I already found an assumption.
Clearly got lower the farther from the center you went. There simply isn't enough mass far out from the center to account for the rapid rotation rates.
Galaxies rotate too fast out at the sides.
Or not enough mass from things we can see.
There's not enough mass from things we can see, perhaps. The only explanation is that there must be dark material. The only explanation. Pretty brave. Why would he say that?
Only explanation is that there must be dark material contributing to the gravity, something besides stars, gas, and dust. Not only that, the galaxy must be embedded in a halo of this material to get the shapes of the rotation graphs right. And there must...
That just shows how stupid that theory is. Good hell. Are you kidding me?
At the north poles of Jupiter and Saturn, and as seen are clearly seen in the earthly auroras at the north poles of Jupiter and Saturn, and as seen in these recent images, even at the poles of Neptune. In the electric universe, Birkland currents flow across interplanetary, interstellar, and even intergalactic space, organizing material across the vastest cosmic distances. In a new scientific paper in...
And this doesn't even have to have invisible halos of dark matter which are undetected, undetectable, and have no effect on other matter except to finish your stupid little equations. You know, gravity, Newton's gravity, doesn't even work in our solar system. Right? We have to adjust our satellites that are floating around the Earth, orbiting around the Earth. We have to adjust them for E equals mc squared, don't we? Because energy comes into play. It's not just gravity. Right? So we're talking about the galaxy here? You don't think the energy comes into play in the galaxy? It comes into play in the solar system. Why would the galaxy only have gravity as its driving force? The solar system has the relativity as a factor. We have to factor in relativity inside of the bounds of the solar system. Why wouldn't we have to factor in energy besides gravity? Why is gravity the only thing we get to consider with the rotation of the galaxies? Why is that? Is there a reason for that? Is that just an assumption that we just get to make? He just says, what did he say here? Really bald assumption, wasn't it?
Rapid rotation rates. Or not enough mass from things we can see. The only explanation is that there must be dark material contributing to the gravity.
Is that the only explanation?
Entitled,
if any, did those charges have as they came through space? My model, which was actually started by a fellow named Lundquist, and I finished the derivation and interpreted what the results meant. And there's a graph that I sent you there about what that is a picture of, if you can visualize it in your mind's eye. This is a picture of what happens to the magnetic field that surrounds the Birkland current, square root of it, and 1 over that. And so it decays. And it decays down very slowly, but eventually...
It decays very slowly. That means it can go out over a pretty big distance if it's got a big charge.
Actually, it's got an infinite distance out, it'll go to 0. About a year ago, I started to think about, okay, what else can I find out about this Birkland current? The result is, and I won't bore you with the mathematics, but the key that unlocked it for me was the current density in amperes per square meter of going down that pipe is equal to the product of the charge density, that is how many coulombs per cubic meter have you got inside that pipe, times the velocity of that cubic meter. So visualize you've got a square cube, say a meter on the side, it's got a gazillion and a half electrons in it, or protons or whatever, and it's traveling, it's moving from left to right. Well, that constitutes the current. And my model said, well, we know what that product is. We know what the current density is. So here's the key. If you know what the velocity is, you can tell from that little equation that the current density equals the charge density times the velocity. If you know what the velocity is, you can get the charge density. Or vice versa. If you know what the charge density is, you can get the velocity because you know what the product is. So the question is, well, where do you go from there? Well, there's a lot of talk these days about the fact that these Birkland currents, huge versions of them, not the kind that just go into the North Pole of Earth, but the kind that actually feed galaxies, are feeding galaxies, and galaxies are forming in strings. Those strings are Birkland currents.
There we go. That's a much better explanation than huge halos. Not just a halo of matter around the outside of the galaxy, but 95% of the mass of the galaxy, utterly dwarfing the 100 billion stars in the galaxy. All right? Or Birkland currents. Hoi polloi.